Hi, it's Chantilly and Elycia again, and today we have our blog police hats on and we're here to talk to you about the rules of blogging.
Or what people think the rules of blogging are.
Yes.
Rules that they're scared to break on their own blog.
And to tell you that there really are no rules.
None. Rule number one of blogging is you can never, ever, 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 ever talk about a bad day, a hard time you're going through.
Yeah, don't even let yourself have a bad day if you're a
No
blogger.
bad days allowed. This is so untrue. And you know what? If that's a rule that you want to make for yourself in your blog, if you want your blog to be an exclusively happy place, that is totally right. And I actually have no issue about that. But if you're having a really crappy day and you want to talk about it and you feel like you're just not allowed because your blog is not a place for that at all, that's not true. Forget it.
It's your blog, you can do whatever you want.
It is really nice to be able to reach out to your readers and say, hey, I'm having a really hard time and I can't deal with this.
Yeah.
I do it sometimes. I wouldn't say I do it regularly, but I like to be honest about when I'm going through a bad time. But yeah, we just wanted to say that you don't have to present a super happy, sunshiny life if that's not what your life is like at the moment. That's not a real rule.
But then on the other hand, don't feel pressured that you have to talk about it if you have a bad day, now that we've said this. Like, I know personally, I don't like to rehash my bad crap. So for myself, I don't normally tell people, blog readers, when I'm having a bad day, but that's a personal choice for me, and just know it's not a rule.
Next rule.
Don't say anything that could ever possibly be perceived by anyone to be offensive.
Don't want to offend anybody.
No one. You can't.
Can't do it.
You can't.
Can't
Okay.
do it.
False.
False.
You are going to offend someone.
It's true. I've seen things that I could never, ever, ever possibly even see as offensive, and I've seen people up in arms about it. Who knows what people are going to find offensive, and if they find it offensive, then it's their right to not look at your blog. Worrying that you're going to offend somebody stunts your growth as a writer and a blogger so massively. When I first started blogging, I was feeling this huge pressure that I might offend a certain portion of my audience. Everything about my blog was just so dulled down because of it, and I was so unhappy writing. It's not as if now I'm like attempting to offend people.
Yeah, we're not saying try to offend everyone.
And I still, when I write, I try to consider the opinions of others to a certain point, but I'm not going to not write something that I feel is really funny or I'm really passionate about because it might offend somebody.
Yes.
Third rule is that you have to do whatever. You have to do
Outfit
certain
posts.
type of posts. You have to do outfit
DIYs.
posts. You have to do DIYs. You have to do a photo an hour. I think probably outfit posts are like the number one.
I think a lot of
one
people
right now.
people feel pressure to do outfit posts. If it's not something you're comfortable with and you want to try it to push yourself out of your comfort zone, definitely go for it. But if it's something that you just don't want to do, you don't want to try it, but you feel like you have to, don't do it.
And it's okay to grow out of a feature. I know that when I started doing outfit posts, it was because I had a little baby and I was like maybe showering a couple times a week and I felt really frumpy, and I was like, I do not want to turn into a frumpy mom. And so it was a challenge for me to get dressed up and then take pictures of it. But then I started to feel like I was growing out of outfit posts because I wasn't feeling comfortable. It wasn't as much of a challenge anymore, and it was just about standing in front of a camera, and then it got really awkward for me. So for a while anyway, I'm taking a break from outfit posts, and that's cool too. Just do the things that you enjoy and don't feel like you have to do a certain type of post because everybody else is doing it.
Yes, definitely.
But maybe don't bash on people that do it.
Yeah.
Everybody else is doing, because that's kind of rude.
That is.
I think a lot of people think that there's a rule about you can never disagree with anyone ever. And I know a lot of people have the stance that if I disagree with them, I just don't leave a comment. And that's fine. If you disagree with them and you don't have anything to add, then saying, I disagree is sort of like,
Okay, that's nice. As long as you're doing it in sort of a constructive way that could possibly add to the discussion, being a jerk just for the sake of being a jerk is not really helping anybody.
If you feel passionately about how much you disagree with them, then I would say go for it, because I think it's good to add to the conversation. Just make sure that you're doing it in a respectful way.
I think that's the most important.
Constructive criticism, no matter what, is hard to hear.
Yes.
It is. It never feels constructive when you're hearing it.
Constructive criticism is harder to hear than just like, I don't like your
Craziness.
hair.
Yeah. Because when there's a point about you actually being wrong, that's not fun.
Yeah.
And
then you're like,
somebody being a nut job, you're like,
yeah, it's just
that's
funny.
awesome. It's definitely not a rule that you can't ever disagree.
And if the blogger doesn't really want that type of feedback on the post, they'll delete your comment or they'll just not respond to it. And that's their choice as well.
If the blogger themselves deletes your comment, at least the person that is the source of the opinion that you disagree with has heard your opinion. The next rule is that you can never, ever, ever, ever talk about your religion or that you're not religious. And I think probably the more predominant one is that you can never talk about that you're not religious. I think there is a huge community of bloggers that are religious or have faith, and they're very spiritual. And I think that's awesome. But I think people that aren't religious sort of get scared about admitting that they're not.
Yes.
I've also made the conscious decision to not talk politics or religion on my blog because it just doesn't have a place on my blog. It's not really a predominant part of my life. Mm-hmm. What we're trying to say is that, if you're religious and you want to talk about it and you feel prepared for that, do it. If you're not religious and you want to talk about it and you feel prepared for it, then do it.
And then on the other hand, if it's not somewhere you want to go, don't feel pressured that you have to talk about it.
Right.
So it kind of goes both ways.
Yeah.
Another blogging rule is that you can never admit when you make a mistake. Don't even think about it. You do not want people to know that you make mistakes. It's not a problem for me because, as I've said before, I don't make mistakes. So I don't have to deal with this at all. Okay, that's a lie. I make tons of mistakes, and for me, I feel more comfortable if I do actually admit that I made a mistake.
Yeah.
Even in my real life, if I feel uncomfortable, I found that it's better for me to just blurt out what I'm uncomfortable about so that everyone kind of knows, and then I can deal with it better. Because the worst part for me is the not knowing what other people are thinking about it.
I think there's readers out there that will read your blog with the assumption that you think you're perfect.
Yeah.
And that is unfair.
Yeah.
I know I am so damn far from perfect. Mm-hmm. So it's almost laughable for me to know that there is at least somebody out there that reads my blog thinking, that bitch thinks she's perfect. Oh my gosh. No, I don't.
Yeah.
No, I don't. So the last rule that we have to tell you about blogging, if you didn't know, you have to have a big, elaborate, expensive blog design in order to be a legit blogger.
The more expensive, the better, and you have to go to Chantilly.
This is just so not true. Mm-hmm. I love seeing when people do their own blog designs, and I love seeing people develop as their own personal blog designer. And I love it because I'm still in the process myself. I didn't go to school for it. I'm totally self-taught. If you're not into learning that, if you don't have the time to invest in it and you do want to hire somebody, go for it, but do not ever feel like it's
essential.
It's essential.
Because you can have a really visually appealing blog that's very simple, that you did yourself.
So those are all of our sort of blogging rules. Mm-hmm. This is something we would love to hear your feedback on. What do you think are some of the blogging rules, or have you been really worried about some of these things? Have you been afraid to use your real voice because you're afraid of offending somebody or something like that? We really want to hear what you have to say about this because we think it's really interesting, and we would love this to be a tool to empower you to just go for it and not
do what you want.
So confined. Yeah, just go for it.
Break all the rules.
Yeah.
Be a rebel.
So thanks for joining us today, and we hope you have a great day. Bye.
Bye. Got our blog police hats on. Okay, are we ready? Did you want me to introduce us?
Sure.
Okay, I can do it. Okay. Meow kitty. I can say crap.
Yeah.
It's our blog. I can do whatever I want. There's no rules. I've said this 3 times. I don't like to talk about it over and over again.
I don't want